Here, everybody. I know it's unusual for me to do a live video during the weekday, but we're going to talk about could A Nightmare on Elm Street be just left as a trilogy? Uh, I know this might divide a lot of fans out there, but I'm not the biggest fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the first two, the second one being my favorite. I'm 50-50 on Dream Warriors. That's when they started blending the comedy with the horror. It was still scary, but it did blend the comedy, which I thought it did a great job. I think Chuck Russell did a great job with that, who directed Dream Warriors. But could it been? But could A Nightmare on Elm Street be left as a trilogy? It could have been because the way the ending of Dream Warriors went, it was a perfect um, closer for the franchise, if that's what you would call it, since it would have only had three films, because the original Final Girl sacrifices herself so that the Dream Warriors live. Donald Thompson gets killed in battle against Freddy's skeleton in the junkyard. Um, you know, I just love the way it ended. The only thing that kind of really, what I didn't like about Dream Warriors was near the end, if it was going to be a trilogy, is when you look at I think the little 1428 Elm house. And I haven't seen Dream Warriors in a long time. And it's in the Doctor, what's his name, played by Craig Wyas, his character. It's at his house, and all of a sudden it zooms in and you see a light turn on in that little miniature 1428 Elm house. So, yeah. But, I like I said, anything that came after 3, it just kept getting funnier and funnier and funnier. Sure, it was still a little bit dark in the Dream Master and the Dream Child. It had, some of its, a little bit of a dark. I mean, it had some dark moments, but when he turned Freddy into a comedic character, then that's when it becomes, to me, it becomes a problem. Uh, I mean, we started getting the comedy in, too, a little bit. When he was, you got the body, I got the brain. When he was speaking to Jesse, which, you know, uh, you know, some of the comedy was good, but it still was scary. Same thing that goes for Dream Warriors. You get to that one, and that's when the comedy and the more creativity of Freddy Krueger comes out more in that one than the first two films. Then you get the whole thing with the lost, with the souls of the children that are stuck into his chest and stuff like that. You don't see that until the Dream Warriors, uh, which I thought was pretty sick, pretty cool. But um, yeah, I mean, when you go from A Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one from 1984, with Nancy, and then you go from there to Jesse and his family moving into 1428 Elm. That basically was, I mean, it connected to the first film, and the reason why it connected to the first film because it's, in there's you got a family living in 1428 Elm Street, and then you got the diary of Nancy that was in Jesse's closet when he went to go ahead. Him and Lisa are cleaning his room and putting stuff away. Lisa's the one that finds the diary about Nancy, and that's how they figured out about Freddy and this way and that way what the heck was going on. And then we get the Dream Warriors, which the whole opening scene of that was pretty wild. You don't get to see Kristen put the replica of 1428 Elm Street, the house, together. You don't see that until she basically like a couple minutes into the film, and she's kind of dozing off and stuff like that. So I think. The bigger the budget was, I don't know how much. I should go back and look and see how much the budget was for the first three Elm Street films, but I believe that Dream Warriors, I think, had the bigger budget besides the first two because with all the creativity that they had to do. I mean, come on, I mean, you had the Freddy Krueger that was trying to eat Kristen. You basically say that was a worm. Then you have Philip being made into a puppet, basically sleepwalking. That was pretty epic and horrifying to look at. Uh, then you had like some of the special effects for the Will Will Staton, the Wizard Master. Some of the special effects for that. And, we didn't really have we really didn't have CGI. They didn't have CGI really, but like some of the electrical lightning stuff that he has done, like with the ball knocker things, and then he can turn them into like butterflies. I thought that was pretty cool. So that Dream Warriors was it took more money to make Dream Warriors than it did for like I believe 1 and 2. Um, but I think the more creative Freddy became, the more the budget was. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the budget was up more with Dream Master, but I just didn't like anything beyond Dream Wars because like I said earlier, it became more comedic, you know. And Robert Englund to me is, when you look at him and stuff like that, it's hilarious. And you get to Freddy's Dead, and it's hilarious. It's out of this world. You get the point where he says the one line to Leslie. He says to her, "What's with kids today, huh? No respect." That type of line. And he had the whole thing with the John Doe character. I forgot the character's name. You have it playing like a scenario out of Wizard of Oz, and it's like then you see Freddy playing as the Wicked Witch, and it's just, "I'll get you in a little soul too," or something like that. And it's just really messed up and really crazy. I know some fans like that kind of stuff. I like horror movies that do have comedy in it, particularly Scream. It has its comedic moments in there and stuff like that. But when you go ahead and you go beyond what Freddy really is supposed to be and make him into a full blown comedic thing, and I have no problem with Freddy and Freddy vs. Jason. I love Freddy and Freddy vs. Jason. Actually, if I had to name my favorite versions of Freddy, it would be from the first one, the second one, and then Freddy vs. Jason. I just love that. Now, as for Dream Warriors, like I said, I'm 50-50 on the film. I like it, and I kind of don't like it, but it is what it is. It did have some great music though too. You got Dawkins, where the Dream Warriors song, that was really cool. Um, with going back with part one, I'd love to see him with part one when he's chasing down Tina in a dream. She runs in her backyard, and all of a sudden she runs past a tree, and here he pops out, and it's just like, how did they do that? It's pretty cool how they did that. And it was scary. I remember I first seen it, I was like, whoa! Especially when he had the long arms walking down the alleyway and stuff like that. That was really really wild. That was so wild. It's beyond your wildest dreams what they can do with these films. You know. Then you did the whole thing with the Tina kill, which they recreated that for Wes Craven's New Nightmare when Freddy kills Julie in the hospital room right in front of Dylan. I thought that was really really scary. That scene there kind of bothered me though for the longest time because it was just Dylan can see Freddy, but nobody else could, and that was like like it was in the first film when Rod sees Tina getting thrown up on the ceiling and stuff, and he can't see who's doing it, but she's getting drug up on the ceiling, spinning around the ceiling, and she gets clawed up and stuff like that, and that was it. That's some pretty scary shit, if you ask me. But the reason why Rod couldn't see Freddy was because it was in Tina's nightmare. Now the whole thing with Dylan, that was kind of interesting there too. It wasn't a nightmare because Wes Craven's New Nightmare is Freddy coming out into the real world. So I don't know what that whole thing was about. Why Julie couldn't see him, but Dylan was able to see him. I don't know that part. That was kind of a mystery to me. But going back with if Nightmare on Elm Street was just left as a trilogy, would I be happy with it? Hell yeah. I love the way Part 3 ended. The Nancy sacrifices herself to save the Dream Warriors, and then of course you got Donald Thompson basically sacrificed himself pretty much trying to battle Freddy's skeleton at the junkyard, stuff like that. Um, yeah, I mean, if you look at it, each of these three films, Dream Warriors, Freddy's Revenge, and Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, they're very, very different from all three of them put together. But like I said, it was nicely well done. I don't think you really needed it. I don't really think you needed to go anything beyond four or beyond three. But I know some people really like it. I got a friend of mine. He claims that he's a Nightmare on Elm Street Part Four, the Dream Master fan. That's his favorite. Sequel in Nightmare on Elm Street. And the funny thing is, Flashback Weekend just announced Tuesday night who played Kristen in the fourth film, which she replaced Patricia Arquette. I don't even know the whole thing why Patricia never came back for the Dream Master. I don't know what that whole thing was about. But I mentioned to him, my friend, I says, "Hey, you gonna meet Tuesday night?" And he hasn't mentioned anything. Well, I mean, you claim that you're a fan of the fourth film in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Why not meet her? You had an opportunity to meet Lisa Wilcock, who was in Part 4 and Part 5. I mean, I just don't, I just don't get it, though. But it is what it is. But sometimes when you go to these convention guys, they have this guest who want to, ooh, I like this movie. I like these characters. Or, oh, they got this other celebrity here that I want to meet. But then that's when you got to ultimately make a decision what celebrity you're going to meet. It's going to be hard for me because, I wanted so bad to meet, get enough attention here. I want to, meet Lena Liberato from Scream 6, but my main two are Sean Cunningham and Ari Lima from Friday 13th Part 1. But going back with Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it should have been left as a trilogy? Do you guys think they could have done something different? I think if they would have went with keeping him as a dark character, not funny at all, and would have went beyond part 3 and so on, I think it would have been an awesome franchise. But I just didn't like the comedy. You made him into this scary character in the beginning, and then he gradually after pretty much right after Dream Warriors, he started being more of a comical character. And I mean, it was funny. I admit, I've laughed at a couple scenes, especially in Freddy's Dead, with the whole Power Glove scene and him inside the TV, the end of the Vita Vagata Iron Butterfly song. When you see him on screen, he's like this, and then it trips out into the tie-dye, 60 type color stuff. I thought that was pretty funny. But I mean, honestly, I think Freddy should have been just left as a dark character. I mean, that's my opinion. I know some people like the funny side of Freddy, but I just really think it should have been just left. And if you would have just left him from 1 all the way up to Freddy's Dead as a dark character, not funny at all, I think it would have been one of my favorite franchises. I know some of the deaths are kind of gross. I mean, some of them I can't really stomach that well, especially in part 4 and especially 5 and so on. But that's the whole creativity. I mean, when you're in the dream world, you can do anything you want, and that's what Freddy can do. Unfortunately, he wasn't successful against Jason and Freddy vs. Jason in the dream world, really. Why won't you die? And he couldn't figure out why Jason couldn't be killed, But yeah, I don't know how long this video is going to be, but some of my favorite characters. Now, if you had to ask me for the first 3 films, some of my favorite characters. My favorite character by far is Jesse and Lisa from the second film. Then you got Grady, the smart ass is what we call him. Then you get Coach Schneider. You get Clu Gulager. If you guys know who Clu Gulager is, Buddy Boy. Bert from Return of the Living Dead, the first one. Actually, I'm gonna have to look that up because I know Nightmare on Elm Street and Return of the Living Dead were both came out in the same year, '85. So yeah, I saw Clue Golden, and he had Hope Lang as the mother. She was really good. I remember her in. She was in the beginning of the very first Death Wish movie with Charles Bronson. Of course, she does get killed off in that. I believe. So I remember her character does get killed off by a gang of thugs or whatever they were. Um, but the second one, I really like John Saxon. I mean, I liked him in Enter the Dragon, as his character. Of course, he's passed away. He passed away a couple years ago. Um, you have, of course, you got Heather Langenkamp. I've never met her at a convention. I know she's been at quite a few conventions that I've been to. I've never met her. It'd be kind of cool to kind of meet her maybe someday. I'll have to think about it. Like I said, I'm not the biggest, Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I mean, I like the first two films the most. But yeah, I think, like I said, going back to the whole thing, to sum this video up, just to sum it all up, I think if they would have just kept Freddy a dark character like he was in the first two films, minus New Nightmare, because New Nightmare is basically, he's not in the films, he's out in the real world. I think they would have kept him like he was in 1 and 2 throughout the rest of the franchise. I think it would have been awesome. But the way they ended 3, it was a good send off to Freddy himself, and it could have been a perfect trilogy. But yeah, without further ado, guys, that's all I got on this franchise. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think it would have been a great way to end Nightmare on Elm Street with just leaving it as a trilogy? Let me know in the comments below, and hope to see these comments, and see you guys back here in the next one. Take care.